I'm spending my time imagining the worst that could happen. I know this is not a good idea, and that being in love, I could be spending my time going over the best that has been happening. The phone rings, heralding some disaster. Sirens. Or it doesn't ring, which also means disaster. Sirens. In which case, who would ring me to tell? Nobody knows. The future is a long gloved hand, an empty cup, a marriage, a full house, one night per week in strangers' white sheets. Forget tomorrow, you say, don't mention love. I try, it doesn't work. I assault the postman for a letter. I look for flowers. I go over and over our times together, reread them. This very second I'm waiting on the phone. Silver service. I polish it. I dress for it. I'll give it extra in return for your call. Infuriatingly, it sends me hoaxes, wrong numbers, or worse, calls from boring people. Your voice disappears into my lonely cotton sheets. I am trapped in it. I can't move. I want you. All the time. This is awful. Only a photo. Come on, damn you, ring me! Or else. What? I don't know what. In this poem, the persona humorously, at times, describes her agony as she waits to hear from her loved one. She is a glass half empty kind of gal and can't stop herself fretting about whether this relationship will last in the longer term. Rather like the persona in Paris with You, her loved one doesn't want to talk about love, and this clearly leaves her feeling insecure and helpless. And so she hangs around by the phone, waiting on it, waiting for it to ring. It does ring, but her monomania means that any other caller is unwelcome. Tensions rise in the penultimate stanza as she figuratively damns the uncommunicative lover. But it is all for naught. This is a persona who spends too much time thinking and speculating. The parallelism within lines 1 and 3 confirm that she doesn't necessarily have to be dwelling on terrible possibilities in relation to her relationship, but she cannot stop herself. There have been good experiences within the relationship, but no details are given whatsoever, and instead the persona stews and gets herself in a right old state. In the second stanza, the epistrophe is particularly stark and striking, with not just disaster, but the one-word sentence sirens concluding both lines 4 and 5. This emphasizes the fact that whatever happens, her mind is insistent that it is going to be terrible news about their relationship, with the noun sirens usually linked to emergency service wailing following death or terrible accident. I also find the present participle heralding interesting in line 4. This verb is typically used to signify an important announcement, and so the implication is that the persona feels that ordinary, everyday communication from her loved one is unlikely or impossible. Perhaps this relates to the fact that this appears to be a secret relationship. No one would ring her if something had happened to her loved one, because nobody knows about their relationship. All 3 lines in this stanza end with melodramatic short sentences for effect, and this adds to the overall feeling of paranoia and melodrama within the poem. It is clear that the persona has no one to talk to about her love, rather like the lady's maid in Warming Her Pearls. However, whereas the lady's maid at least has her fantasies and knows that she will never be able to get together with her mistress, this persona is left in a frenzied state of indecision. She may demand in line 21 for her loved one to ring her damn you, but ultimately she knows such commands are impotent. The third stanza contains a series of differing metaphors about the future of the persona's relationship. The phrase a long gloved hand is enigmatic and could be interpreted as a positive future of glamour and high-class dancing, or alternatively a sign that this relationship may need to remain covered up to the world for a while yet. Meanwhile, the suggestion that the future may be an empty cup seems to imply loneliness. Will she be discarded by the one she craves, leaving her to drink her coffee from one cup, with her partner's previous usual cup left unused? Or might the couple get married and have children, creating a full house? Or will future liaisons need to be clandestine in depressingly depersonalised, albeit hygienic, surroundings? But she is being told in no uncertain terms to forget tomorrow, the imperative verb suggesting the power imbalance between the two. She should only focus on the present. She should not have overly high expectations for the relationship and should not put too much pressure on her loved one, as seen in the decree not to mention love. However, the persona is clearly totally unable to adapt such a laissez-faire attitude towards a relationship. She has a tendency to overthink, analyse, fret, panic. So much so that she figuratively assaults the postman in her desperation to receive news from her loved one, and as a sign of the lack of other vibrant interests and hobbies within her life, or at least that these have been totally consumed by the present, by her hopes and fears. The caesuras in line 10 create a nervous, jerky feel, which reflects her overall mood and general feelings of quick breathing agitation. Given the diktat not to mention love, I wonder whether the fact that she looks for flowers is particularly deluded or naive. Silver service is a particular method of serving food in a restaurant. I believe the waiter must always serve from the left. In the context of this poem, the persona suggests, comically but also rather pathetically, that she is treating the telephone like a special guest who expects only the finest service. This image is extended beyond the pun on waiting on in line 13 to the suggestion that she polishes it and gets dressed up. This is intended to be mildly humorous and hyperbolic, but it also emphasizes the loneliness of the persona's life as she waits and waits and waits to hear from her loved one. The use of epistrophe in I polish it, I dress for it, emphasizes this sense of emptiness. Whereas those genuinely receiving silver service receive it from a human being, here the idea of giving the phone additional attention in order to somehow miraculously tempt this inanimate object into arranging a loved one to call sounds particularly sad and desperate. What is particularly frustrating is that when the phone rings, A, it is not her lover, and B, some of these callers do not want to speak to her or want to dupe her in some way. The people that do want to speak to her, she doesn't want to speak to, and she dismisses them from her crazed, neurotic, lonely world as merely boring. It is your voice that she wants to hear, as emphasised by the enjambment from lines 17 to 18, aimed at giving it longer to be heard within her unhappy imagination. It is at night, as with the persona in Warming Her Pearls, that the loneliness is most acute. However, in Duffy's poem, the burning at night is more to do with unfulfilled blazing desire, whereas here we just get the sense that the persona may not be in any fit mental state to indulge in sexual fantasies. The penultimate stanza becomes more incoherent and jagged, with abrupt switches between foci within exceptionally short sentences. The persona recognises that she is currently hemmed in and unable to move on with her life, hence the past participle trapped. But there is nothing she can do about it, something confirmed by the tired, helpless final line of the poem, which has given its own stanza to highlight her isolated impotence. How does dusting the phone present the negative side of love? Time for topic sentences and quotations. Get started. Press pause now, please. Within my essay, I would kick off by suggesting that a perceived failure to communicate regularly enough can lead to paranoia. I would use the quotation, "The phone rings, heralding some disaster, sirens," and would explore the effects of words such as heralding and sirens. I would continue by writing that those in insecure relationships can worry excessively about the future. I would then explore the quotation, "one night per week in strangers' white sheets," noting the interesting absence of a definite or indefinite article before stranger. Finally, I would state that desire for an absent loved one can completely take over your life, leaving you paralyzed and impotent. I would use this quotation from the penultimate stanza, "I'm trapped in it, I can't move, I want you." Here's my model paragraph. Desire for an absent loved one can completely take over your life, leaving you paralyzed and impotent. The tone becomes more desperate in the penultimate stanza, and the persona declares, "I'm trapped in it, I can't move, I want you." The use of the past participle trapped suggests that the persona feels unable to live freely and move on with her life due to her uncertainties about the future of her relationship. It is notable that she fails to define exactly what is trapping her, hence the use of the generic pronoun it. This again emphasizes her lack of control and agency, whilst the fact that she desires the persona so much but doesn't even know whether their relationship will continue in the longer term highlights the fact that being in love has the potential to cause considerable pain and frustration.